Angela, I've seen previous interviews and with the police, and one of our colleagues talked to you once upon a time. You're very upfront.
Pretty much.
About talking about this killing.
Right.
You murdered this man.
Yes.
You tortured him.
Of course.
There is no ambiguity, and there is nothing you want to... In court today, you said you're not here to pretend to be remorseful.
Of course not. Why would I do that?
Hi guys, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. You're so greatly appreciated. It means so much to me. You have no idea. If you haven't yet, please like, subscribe, leave me a comment. It really helps me out, especially since I'm so small. I appreciate it so much. Angela Simpson was born on November 29, 1975. Very little is known about her childhood, but what is known is that it was a very rough one. She had been diagnosed with several mental health disorders. She had been in and out of mental hospitals since the age of 10, and when she got out of the hospital, she started doing drugs. It said that she had never had a real genuine relationship or connection with her family, men, or really anybody for that matter. Once her drug use started, she began committing crimes and sex work for money to buy more drugs and to pay her bills. Angela would go on to have 4 kids that never lived with her, and she would refuse to talk about what circumstances led to this or even who the father or fathers are.
I have 4 children.
You have 4 children?
I do have 4 children.
Where are they, Angela?
El Mirage.
What is, how are they doing, and how is it for you to be separated from them?
I don't want to talk about my children. I can't do that.
The only thing she would say was that she had struggled with mental illness since she was 10 and that she does not want or need sympathy from anyone.
Life.
I started being hospitalized at 10 years old. I have a mental history from 10 years old until present, so yeah.
When you say mental history, I mean, do you care that anyone feels sorry for you? Do you want anybody?
Feel sorry for me?
Yeah. Should the people who are watching this say because she had a bad childhood,
of course not,
because she has mental illness?
Of course not. No.
That we should feel some sympathy for you?
No.
You would not have that.
I want no sympathy. No.
Terry Neely was a 46-year-old paraplegic and was confined to a motorized wheelchair. He could use his legs, but not for long periods of time. He was mentally disabled, and people would describe him as a little slow, but very sweet, friendly, and easygoing. Because of all this, Terry was forced to live in an assisted living care facility. On August 5th, 2009, firefighters would show up to a church to put out a fire in a garbage can. Firefighters originally thought it was a prank, but they would very quickly realize that it definitely was not. Firefighters would find the charred remains of a male body inside of the can. Police would quickly be called to the scene after this. Because the body was burned beyond recognition, and because the care facility hadn't reported Terry missing, police had no idea who this man was. Besides being burned, Terry's legs were cut off, one arm was attempted to be cut off, and his teeth were torn out of his mouth. With nowhere to start, police began asking around the neighborhood. One informant told police to look into a woman named Angela Simpson.
Simpson was accused of kidnapping, torturing, and murdering a man she believed to be a police informant. She is then said to have dismembered the corpse, set it on fire, and to have thrown the remains in a dumpster.
I heard they said I was possessed by the devil. I think that's hilarious. Isn't that beautiful?
The media says you did some pretty heinous things. Does that bug you?
Does it bug me? What people say? No. My give a is broke. I really don't. I have no concern for what people think. I told my kids when they were babies they saw a guy behind a Circle K. I told them that's how cops grow. So, yeah. I didn't know that they would the next week go alley and try to grow a cop. That was not my intention, but...
They would go on to tell police that they had seen Angela and Terry together on more than one occasion doing drugs outside of an apartment complex. Conveniently enough, Angela Simpson was already in jail for committing an armed robbery with a man named Edward McFarland earlier that same day. The police informant, who was also the apartment manager, told police that Edward McFarland, who went by the name Cracker, was bragging to him about how he helped Angela get rid of the body after she killed him, and told him that if he said anything that he would end up the same way. As police continued to ask around about Angela and Terry, people would tell them that the duo had been friends for quite some time. They were both criminals and drug addicts who would get high together, and it's believed that Terry was Angela's pimp. Next, police headed over to Angela's apartment, where they found Terry's motorized wheelchair abandoned on the grass. After this discovery, police obtained a search warrant to search Angela's apartment. Once they entered the apartment, police found that the carpet had been torn up. There was minimal furniture for a chair and a floor-length mirror. They also found nose pliers, great value brand bleach, and a lot of blood. When police went over to interview Angela, she confessed openly and even laughed about it while eating a candy bar.
Charred, dismembered remains of the victim, who authorities state was not an informant, were discovered inside a trash can. He had been stabbed 50 times and showed other signs of torture.
What did you do that you would consider torture?
Ripped his teeth out. That's my favorite.
How'd you do that?
With some needle nose pliers. Kind of rip, you know.
What made you think of that,
What made me think of it?
to do that?
Prior tooth pain. Pretty agonizing, yeah. I thought maybe I could distribute that.
The victim also had a 3-inch nail driven into his head.
She is the one in this whole jail that creeps me out, for a better word. You know, she just, you just don't know what she's gonna do.
Thank you, Miss Simpson. Anything I can do to help put a snitch down is my pleasure.
So it was your pleasure when you committed this murder?
See, that's kind of up. I'm thinking, I don't know what my lawyer would say if I answered that straight out. Hold on, yes. Yes, it was. But, yeah.
She said that she killed Terry by luring him into her apartment. She sat him down and beat him with various objects until he was unconscious, then slit his throat. She went on to say that she cut his appendages off. Why she did this? She claims it was because Terry said that he was a snitch. He claimed to have told on a righteous person. She would go on to beat him for 3 days. She pulled out his teeth, hammered a screw into his brain, all while making him sit in front of a mirror to watch himself being tortured. She said she did this to show him what he deserved, and he was alive for most of it. She said this wasn't the only time she killed, but that she wouldn't say how many. She would later retract that statement by saying she hadn't killed anyone else, saying it was just talk. When police told her that Cracker said that both Angela and him had killed Terry, she insisted that he had nothing to do with it. She says the only way he was involved at all was that she borrowed his car to dispose of the body.
Friends of yours lied to prosecutors and lied to police.
Correct.
Dropped the dime on you.
Correct.
They snitched on you.
Correct.
If you could, would you do to them what you did to
No,
Terry?
I would not.
Because you still have some relationship with them, or?
Well, no, but I had claimed a bond with them at one point, so I wouldn't be able to avenge that.
Yeah, yeah. Did you act completely alone in that
Yes,
apartment?
definitely.
So nobody else helped?
No. Totally alone.
And police never found any evidence that actually proved he helped in killing Terry. Angela would go on to say on the night of August 2nd, she lured Terry out of his care home at 8 p.m. on the empty promise of sex and drugs at her apartment. She knew those were the things that he would come for. He was her regular client, and if she was offering sex for free, he would take it. She said she told Terry that they would do some drugs, and that's how she got him alone. He left the care facility to meet up with her. She took him to the apartment she had access to in North Phoenix, and told police that once she got him inside, her whole persona dropped. She would make it very clear to police during the interview that her and Terry were not friends and that she hated him. She grabbed a tire iron she had hidden in the apartment and began beating him over the head with it, and she did this until he was bleeding but still conscious. She wanted him awake and struggling, but this was only the beginning. The things she did to this man are literally the things nightmares are made of. He was subjected to 3 days, at least 72 consecutive hours of pure torture. She kept him locked up and continued to brutally torture him to near death. She beat him every day with her hands and various weapons, including a tire iron and a hammer. She stabbed him, burned him, pulled his teeth out with pliers, hammered a 3-inch screw into his skull and brain right in the middle of his forehead, and sliced his throat. Not deep enough to kill him, just enough to hurt, all while sitting him in front of the full-length mirror so he can watch it. And bear in mind, guys, that this man was disabled, so he couldn't just get up and walk away or even really fight her off. And she refused to give him food, water, or toilet breaks. Over the next few days, he obviously grew weak, and Angela grew bored. It was no more fun, so she just finished him off. When police went over to interview Angela, she confessed openly and even laughed about it while eating a candy bar. She tied an electrical wire around his neck and tightened it until he stopped breathing and died. She then chopped off his legs and started to chop off his arms, but gave up and decided she was done.
Is it hard to chop up a human body?
Nah, not really. You'd be amazed. It's quite simple, actually. You should try it. It's only a felony 6. Knock it down to a misdemeanor. Dismemberment it's a really low charge.
She borrowed Cracker's car, loaded Terry's body up, and drove to the church. Found a trash can, put his remains inside of it, and set it on fire. Angela will go on to say that she did this because Terry told her multiple times that he was a snitch and an informant for the CIA, and that everyone he snitched on was serving time in prison because of him. And Angela hated snitches. In Angela's opinion, they, along with pedos, were the worst things and deserved to die.
Chomos are definitely beyond any doubt the worst and most vile creatures on the planet. Yes, snitches then would come in second, and cops would be third. Yeah.
How about people who murder other people?
What about them?
Where do they fall
And where?
in your hierarchy?
Of badness? They don't. You want to throw murderers in with cops and chomos? Are you serious? You're kidding, right? You can't put murderers in a category with up people. That doesn't make any sense. Rest assured, if somebody killed and they had a reason to do it. You need to be looking at the dead motherfucker, not the motherfucker that killed it.
Do you believe him? I mean, lots of people go around claiming I'm a snitch or make themselves...
Really, you don't say.
Well, I think they talk about law. I know people come. I've got associations with law enforcement. You know, I've got this. I'm a friend with this.
Do you happen to have a list of those people?
At one point, Angela even says that he told on a lot of high-up people. Later, she said she didn't know anyone he snitched on. Angela continued to work for Terry, but she hated him for snitching, and she decided to punish him. Police weren't sure if she was telling the truth or not, so they decided to check out her criminal and mental health. They found that she had been in and out of prison her whole adult life. She'd been in for fights, trespassing, aggravated assault, carjacking, robbery, and fighting. According to police, after investigating Terry, it was found out that he actually wasn't a snitch. He'd been lying to Angela the whole time. If he did in fact ever tell her that he did do those things, this means that Terry was literally killed for no reason.
Why did this man deserve to die? You claimed he was a snitch.
Well,
what proof do you have of that?
He told me he was a snitch.
He told you.
On many occasions.
That's what did it to him. That's why you.
What, the bragging?
The bragging
Oh, yeah.
about putting people in prison.
Right.
People you knew?
No. No,
But
I don't know any of them.
Okay. Do you believe him? Do you think he really was a snitch?
Oops, if he wasn't.
Phoenix police said that at the time of Angela's arrest, her detailed description matched the injuries that were found during the autopsy examination. Angela admitted to her first-degree murder as well as abduction and disposal of a body, and Judge Paul McMurdy sentenced her to life in prison plus 14 years. When Angela was asked whether or not she had any regret, she said the only thing that she regrets was that she did not lengthen the suffering for Terry, and that she's upset that she won't be able to kill more snitches.
If you had that moment to live over again,
I'd have kept him alive a week.
but you would have still tortured him and killed him.
Oh, I'd have tortured him for a week, yeah, instead of 3 days. Definitely.
So your only regret is that the torture didn't go on any longer.
Right, and I regret not killing my other victim. I should have killed him, too. I just didn't have time. I had to go somewhere.
And tell me who that other victim was.
Joseph Van Tress for the armed robbery. Yeah. I should have killed him, but I had to go.
Will you kill again?
If the opportunity arises, I hope so.
Content creators on TikTok are now using the audio of that interview to test their acting skills in a dark new acting challenge. The trend is that TikTokers mouth along to Angela Simpson's interview with expressions to match her voice, amassing over 300,000 views. Other online users have pointed out the fact that this is a real crime with real victims, and this man had real people that loved him, and this murder isn't something that should be used as acting. With one TikTok user saying, "Could you imagine being the victim's family member and stumbling across this trend?"
His good friend still reeling 3 years later.
Yeah. I felt really bad when I heard what happened to him, and I was angry.
I killed Terry.
Angela Simpson, seen here in this police interview footage, confessed to the horrific crime. In her confession, Simpson said she lured Neely to this apartment with the promise of sex, only to confine him and slowly torture him over 3 days.
And beating him with various objects until he was unconscious.
Over a candy bar and a soft drink, Simpson continues the confession, describing how she drove a 3-inch nail into Neely's skull, but not before bashing him with a tire iron. She then ripped his torso apart, setting the chopped remains ablaze in a nearby dumpster.